I wanna dance by water beneath the Mexican sky, drink some margaritas by swinging blue lights, listen to the mariachi play at midnight. Are you with me? Are you with me?
I'm Evan Duffield. I'm a software engineer. I've been programming since I was 15. And as a little bit of background, I'm really interested in finance, economics, machine learning, and these types of things. So when I got into Bitcoin, it was just fascinating. It captivated my interest. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to tinker with Bitcoin at like a really low level. I wanted to mess with the protocol. And I wanted to test things that you really can only do with your own currency. And so what we've been doing is really adventurous things that you could just never get into the Bitcoin project because they're just too dangerous. But with a small little network like this, you can do things because we can be really nimble with what we do.
We believe that despite the network effect that Bitcoin has and its potential, there are some interesting altcoins that, from a technology perspective, are pretty interesting. So there are some very, very interesting altcoins. We will hear about Dash today. We really like Dash from a technical standpoint. So we tend to invest and to support those other technologies where we deeply believe in the team, in the technology behind it, and the potential niche that they are targeting.
Mm-hmm. The infrastructure we've set up is to take advantage of any of these other digital currencies that do flourish. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin is the clear leader and that has a clear advantage over the others, but we're flexible and we're able to move wherever we're asked to sort of.
And so what have we been doing? Some of the projects have been what we call a two-tier network, as opposed to a single-tier network on the Bitcoin network, and then decentralized funding and decentralized governance. So how does that work exactly? Well, if you think of Bitcoin like a job network, I would argue that it's actually the first truly decentralized job network. But there's only really one job, and it's mining currently. And so what we did was we added a new job. And we call these people masternode operators, and they run our infrastructure for us. And basically what we do is we require that they run specific types of hardware, and then we can actually rely on that hardware. So how has it been working for us? And I would say amazingly well. We've added hundreds of these master nodes, which are full nodes, which service the network over the past 12 months. We have 3,400 currently, and about 4,500 full nodes, as opposed to the Bitcoin network, which has about 5,800. And so basically, we have thousands of these full nodes, and each of them have 1,000 dash collateral tied to them. That collateral has a public key and a private key. And so the public key is known by the network. The private key is only known by the person running that full node, which is ran as a master node. So what do you do with this? And you can do interesting things such as implementing decentralized voting. So imagine thousands of these collateralized nodes voting on topics on the network. And then you can do even more interesting things, like you can build decentralized funding. So what if you allocate a piece of the block reward, and then you have people that are running these nodes voting on where to send the money to? And so you can propose things to the network and get them paid. And then you can also govern the network, and you can answer questions pretty much instantaneously about what direction that the network should go in. So here's our decentralized governance and funding system. And we've only had this for 3 months now. And over the 3 months, we've funded 3 different conferences, one in Mexico, one in Florida, and one in the Netherlands. And it actually paid for our airfare, paid for the hotels, and things like that, because the the people that are promoting the currency or doing work for it shouldn't have to bear the cost of doing it themselves. And this stuff is actually paid directly from the blockchain. Also, we bought a new website, dash.org, from the blockchain itself. I think it's actually the first domain to ever be purchased directly from the blockchain. And we fund our business development with this method. So how could you apply something like this to Bitcoin? Well, I think first you've got to imagine what makes the perfect Bitcoin. And I don't know the answer to how the Bitcoin developers or the community would want to use this technology, but I just want to open a conversation about, what would it be like if they had decentralized funding and decentralized governance? It could be pretty neat. There's definitely an issue with the full node relationship and the transaction volume that the network is doing. As transaction volumes rise, the full nodes actually fall off. And with a second tier, you automatically fix this issue. So then what else do you get? We want to scale the Bitcoin ecosystem, and we want to be able to support millions of mobile devices. So I've come up with a couple strategies of doing this with a two-tier network. So you want to support millions of these mobile devices, and you could actually do it with a decentralized SPV installation. What if you had all of the second-tier nodes running SPV, and then you point a round-robin DNS at this second tier? And then now you have thousands of them bearing the load of the entire network. And then you could also have decentralized funding like we're using, or decentralized governance. You could probably even implement Bitcoin Lightning in a similar fashion. I was also thinking about governance. What if you proposed the BIPs to the network via the second tier and had them vote on them? So then we would have an instantaneous way of telling how the network feels about individual proposals. And this could be, it's Sybil proof because the second tier is collateralized, it's instantaneous, and then the network has immediate direction that it can go in. They could also have a funding system like we have, and they could actually pay for the core development directly from the blockchain. Currently, it's financed by grant money, and it used to be financed by donations and from a foundation. So I could see this as being a vast improvement. Here's the decentralized SPV idea. All you do is you point that round-robin DNS at the second tier, and then you have the mobile wallets point at the second tier. And then it should scale because it's thousands of servers. So how would they do this? And I don't really know. They would have to plan and implement it. And these are some of the smartest people I've ever met, so I'm sure they could do an amazing job. It does require that part of the block reward gets allocated for the second tier so that it compensates them. And it requires that part of the block reward would get allocated to decentralized funding as well. And then you trustlessly detect and you pay the master nodes that are on the system, and then you should be able to scale rather efficiently. So what's the conclusion? I would say that we should start talking about this and see what the Bitcoin community thinks about adopting something like this on the Bitcoin network. As a short announcement, we're open sourcing Dash Evolution today, which it's basically what I've been talking about times 100. We want to implement something like a decentralized PayPal on top of our decentralized currency, where you could basically log into your mobile wallet, and then it would connect to the second tier. We would store all of the needed information that you use on the second tier encrypted, such as friends lists and things like that. So I could friend somebody. I would send them, 5 of my next public keys to use. They would send me 5 of their next public keys. And I could literally just click their name, click, I want to send you to Dash, and then click send. And I think that's a pretty powerful feature if it's completely network-wide. And that's the type of stuff that we're building into Dash Evolution. So if you're interested in that, go to dashevolution.com and check out the new papers. And that's it. Thanks a lot.
Well, Ivan, you have developed a consensus model, a governance model for a cryptocurrency, and an incentive model that is governed by that consensus model that you created. And I think that's amazing, and that's something Bitcoin is lacking in terms of giving incentives to full nodes that are the auditors of the network. So I think you're finding or trying to find a solution to a very big systemic risk of Bitcoin. So I think it's very, very interesting, very exciting to see what you have done. And that consensus also applied to the development and to the evolution of your own platform. So that's my summarizing of you, then you will expand on it.
I think we're all working on very similar things. We're all definitely working towards the same goals. And I'm very excited I didn't know about any of I've known about Dash a lot for a while, but I've learned a lot more. And I'm just excited to work more with you guys. We're making it happen. So
It's been interesting meeting everybody because I've found the same project being ran by different people multiple times. So we're all after the same thing, just in completely different ways. And I think now is the time that you figure out the best possible way to do it, and then we follow that path. And I think that's really the end goal.
My question is primarily for Eric, but we'd love to hear other opinions. What role do you think alternative currencies would play in the future of the crypto ecosystem?
It's a great question. I used to be a Bitcoin maximalist, which is the derogatory label, maybe, for someone who thinks that there can only be one digital asset called Bitcoin. It will be the only form of money, the only thing that anyone uses over a blockchain. And I used to think that because of how money tends to work. Network effects are extremely important. You don't need more than one money, generally, with a very important exception, which is that money has certain attributes to it. And those attributes make a certain type of money good for certain things. And so if you have attributes that make a money good for certain things, and another form of money with very different attributes that may make it very good for something else, those two forms of money can coexist perfectly reasonably. And so that kind of broke the spell, and I started realizing that, okay, maybe I shouldn't dismiss all these other assets so quickly. And then I came to realize that not only will there be perhaps lots of monies that have different types of things, Dash being a great example. If you want really good privacy, Bitcoin may not be as appropriate as Dash, and the two of them are really symbiotic. And we will live in a world with thousands or millions or billions of digital assets representing all different types of things. And so I think that'll be a very exciting world, and one that'll enrich the whole ecosystem.
I can't agree more with that. I take a slightly different perspective. I look at it as an evolutionary environment, which means that there are environmental niches in which certain coins will fit. And those environmental niches are infinitely variable. And so even if there is like an alpha predator, that alpha predator has a tick on its shoulder, which is another little coin that's riding on a side chain and serving a completely different purpose in the ecological niche. And the idea that you can have one species and once that evolves, everything else disappears is ridiculous. Same thing applies to coin.
I wanna dance by water beneath the Mexican sky, drink some margaritas by swinging blue lights, listen to the mariachi play at midnight. Are you with me? Are you with me?